Well, hello and welcome to an episode of Small Town Big Business, a podcast about doing big business in small town USA. I'm your host, Allison Hassler with Southern Illinois Vacation Rentals.
And I'm Russ Williams, Director of Ethos. We are a small business incubator, meaning that we get new businesses started. We're co-working spaces and we do training and development. We're coming to you from the location of Ethos, which is on Tower Square Plaza in Marion at the Citadel building. And we're thankful that you've joined us today. We want to thank our sponsors for making this podcast possible. So that includes Fowler Heating and Cooling, Arcadia Wealth Group, Watermark Auto Group Foundation, Black Diamond Harley Davidson and RV, the Swinford Media Group, and also our producers at Union Street Arts.
And you can join the Small Town Big Business community wherever you listen to podcasts, including YouTube and Facebook. So subscribing is free, and you will get notifications every time that we release new episodes every 2 weeks.
Allison, did you know that we're almost at 100 subscribers for YouTube? And once you reach that goal, 100 subscribers, then you get to customize your URL. So we want everybody to try to subscribe. It's free.
All right.
On YouTube.
If you have already subscribed on your podcast, do us one more favor and subscribe to YouTube as well.
Absolutely.
That would be great.
That would be great.
Awesome. Well, if you are new to our podcast, welcome and thank you for listening. We interview successful business owners in the community and help others understand how they thrive with their business in small town rural America.
And our special guest today brought us peaches.
Of course.
Yeah. I am
from
so
Rendleman
excited
Orchards. Yeah, right here in Southern Illinois. We have Michelle and Wayne Rendleman.
Yes. Hi.
Welcome, glad you're here.
Thank you.
Now I have to be truthful. I asked for Wayne if Wayne could be part of the podcast, and Michelle said no, Wayne can't make it. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll have Michelle come. But both of you are here.
Yeah, surprisingly, it worked out. Both of us could come. So
yeah, I'm just joking. I wanted you on the show.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys both for coming here. This is my first time meeting Wayne. Yes. Michelle, we've met several times in several different ways, and I am so excited to talk about the nitty-gritty part of the business because we haven't really talked about that. We've talked about a lot of different things.
Right.
And so let's talk about, first of all, how old Rendleman Orchards
Now how old these peaches are.
Or how old any of us are.
Yeah.
How old the orchard is and how long it's been around. It's been a mainstay in Southern Illinois for generations. So let's start there and talk about how it came to be with you guys.
Well, you can talk about the history.
Yes,
You've been there since you were born.
Rendleman Orchards next year is going to be celebrating their 150th year.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh.
So my great-great-grandfather, John Rendleman, after the Civil War, a lot of people left the South. My family came from the North Carolina area. My particular family. Now, we've had Rendlemans in the Southern Illinois area ever since the Revolutionary War, which I'm pretty much related to any Rendleman around here, as in a certain cousin or some way or another throughout the area of the Midwest. But however, as they did many, many years ago, when other families move, they communicate and say, hey, there's opportunity here, there's land here. So my direct lineage left North Carolina and moved up here to Southern Illinois. They came from the hills of North Carolina. So then a lot of people, as they migrate, whether it's from different parts of the United States or even from the old countries of Europe, a lot of times they'll migrate towards land and towards climate that they're familiar with. Mm-hmm. So the stretch of Ozark Hills. That goes from the Mississippi to the Ohio, in Southern Illinois, reminded a lot of them of their home. And then they also came from a culture of raising livestock and fruits and vegetables and so forth. So they established Rendleman Orchards in Alto Pass. Yeah. We actually still inhabit the original farmhouse. We have my grandmother passed at 104 about 5 years ago. So we decided to take the original farmhouse and use it as a office facility, meetings and so forth like that. So we wanted to keep it as a strong part of our farm. We have a lot of original outbuildings. We have the original packing shed, which is over 100 years old. And we have a lot of out structures that are very, very old that we try to maintain the best that we can. But, our heritage is very unique. It's very special. It's a lot to be proud of. My family's been raising fruit crops for over 100 years. So that's what we do. And I figure that's one of our reasons for the good Lord putting us here. And that's what my family does.
Awesome.
That's amazing.
Well, and since your orchards is a destination, and we'll talk more than just peaches.
Yeah.
If I was coming from St. Louis or Paducah or Evansville, how long would it take me to come to your place, approximately?
Well, depending on where you're coming from, that's what really makes Rendleman Orchards in a great location, because we're centrally located. You can get to us from St. Louis in 2 hours and 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. You can get to us from Indiana in a couple hours. You can get to us from Louisville in just 4 hours. You can get to us from Paducah, 1 hour, Cape, 45 minutes.
Yeah, you're really close to Cape Girardeau.
Yeah, we are. And really, Nashville, Memphis, 3 hours, that's a day trip if you want it to be. So for us, we feel like you can get to us and have small town experience and have a true farm experience at a working farm, but you can also make a weekend of it, since we have the wine trail and all of the hiking and the outdoors and the lakes and everything that Southern Illinois has. It's just incredible beauty. So most of those folks that come to us end up realizing quickly they need to make a overnight or they need to make a weekend of it, because they won't be able to do all the fun things.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
awesome. Well, this is a huge peach. I mean, look at the size. Did you guys just select the biggest ones that come here today, or is that what they look like?
That is.
Well, in general, there's the interesting thing about peaches is there's all different varieties, and there are hundreds of varieties, and we actually select the varieties like any other farm or any other agronomic crop or fruit or vegetable that are more conducive to flourish in our area. So these varieties have been specifically selected for our climate.
Yeah.
Because we are not extremely cold, but we are much colder than the southern climates where peaches are raised, and the California climates where peaches are raised. They're selected for our soils. They're selected for our disease pressures we have here and so forth, because in the fruit crops, it's a lot like with the agronomic crops, as I mentioned with corn and beans. A lot of them throughout the years have been bred for positive characteristics, flavor, size, color, ones that can be shipped well. So yes, we actually go through a lot of different varieties before we find the ones that we want to raise for wholesale. I actually have little variety plots all on our farm. And we do that with apples too, to where we will plant a few trees and we'll test them out before we decide to put in, like 1,000 trees or something, just to see that they do what we want to do and so forth. And so we've learned a tremendous amount on. We probably learned a lot more about which peaches or apples not to plant than the ones that we do. So yes, so we try to select ones that have above average size. Not too big, but then also not too small. Yeah. And so we try to select ones that have an attractive, appealing color. Yeah. Ones that actually taste good too.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I would eat one right now, but it would be all over my blouse because they are plump and juicy. I have been eating them since they have come into season.
Yeah. And
we should say they get bigger too. As the season goes on, it seems like those varieties get bigger. And in the farm market, the fun thing to do is the team in there is always looking for the biggest peach of the day. And we've had several that have been over a pound.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's always a fun little game during the day.
Wow. And we should say we're recording this during peach season. That's why you brought
Yes.
these beautiful peaches. But when people watch it, it'll probably be apple season.
Yeah, we'll
But
probably be in there.
That's what one of our main characteristics are for Southern Illinois peaches, whether I raise them or other farmers raise them, is as you mentioned, the juice. I mean, you really, like as far as like California peaches, they don't have the juice and they don't have the sweetness as what Southern Illinois does.
Wow.
And we think that we even have juicier and sweeter peaches than like the South Carolina and Georgia.
Yeah.
So our atmosphere, our climate in this area does produce a very, very, very nice peach, and it produces a one that is very juicy, and one that is also has intense sweetness to it also. And a lot of our fruit trees, we do not irrigate because we're able to have plenty of natural water that comes down, and so forth. So that also makes a difference too.
Wow.
I want to circle back around to so when you two were married, so you've been married for a long time.
Not
32
150.
years.
Not
32
150,
years.
32, okay.
32 years.
Congratulations.
Michelle, when you married Wayne, you knew that you were marrying Rendleman Orchards,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
You knew that there was very little chance that you would decide, you know what, we're going to pack up and move to New York City instead.
It's like Green Acres. You watch Green Acres?
Oh yeah.
Yes, when I worked in St. Louis at an advertising agency, they played that for me when we got engaged.
That's awesome.
In my
That's
last
great.
couple of weeks all the time because they just couldn't imagine that I was leaving the city as a graphic designer, an advertiser, to come to a town of 350 people.
So I want to talk a little bit about that story and your story of how you do have a marketing and design background and how that has really married into what you do now. You are a very central force to the generation now of Rendleman Orchards, and I want to talk about how that looked for you and what that transition looked like for you.
Well, when I first moved to the farm and we were newlyweds, I had always told him, I'll never work in the farm. I'm just letting you know because I want my own career and I want to do my own thing. And that always worked out well for us. I stayed part-time when my kids were little and had several different jobs in Southern Illinois, which actually allowed me to meet new people in the region, to network, bring other ideas into the farm, even though I wasn't working there officially. And as the years went on and my career progressed, the more I would say the more I was able to offer the family business because I had gained graphic design skills in school, but throughout my 25-year career prior to joining the farm, I did marketing, I did human resource, business operations, development, even fundraising, corporate events. So all of that has now transpired into our own business, and it's really, I feel like, given us a really nice, well-rounded skill set because Wayne has all of the growing experience that I don't, and so I feel like we complement each other well. But it was only 8 years ago that I joined the farm full-time.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that pivotal moment when there was obviously a fork in the road where you decided, am I going to continue my career or am I going to take all of the things that I've learned in my career and put them into our farm? What was that decision like for you?
Well, the last few years of my career, I kept feeling limited. I kept feeling limited by what I was allowed to do in my jobs. And so I decided to take some time off, and I took a few months off, and I was redoing my resume, and my oldest daughter said to me, well, Mom, this is everything Dad needs. And it really was a pivotal time in their business, too, because Wayne's parents had gotten into their 70s and had earned their retirement and could at least slow down and enjoy life a little bit. but Wayne needed help. Yeah. And in our business, it is such a unique and specialized business. It's really hard to bring in a higher level hired person because our team is like family, and I know every business owner says that, but we actually have a lot of team members that have been with us multi-generation because we've been around 150 years. We have other families that have been with us 50 years, 40 years.
Wow.
We have a woman with us now that peels all the peaches for peach smoothies, that she's the third, and her children are the fourth generation that have been with us. So, we have an obligation to provide them the best place to work, really. So we're pretty particular about that and about our brand. I mean, it's not hard. I mean, it's not easy to bring somebody in that understands a 150-year-old brand like a family member does.
Yeah.
There's two parts of this, and there's two different ways that I want to go with this. One of them is that how you have went above and beyond being an orchard to a destination in Southern Illinois, and how you have thought outside the box, and how we have, my family personally, we haven't been there yet this year. We go every year at least once, if not multiple times, depending on how many extra family members are visiting. And we absolutely love it. We can spend a day at your orchard because there's so many different things that you have brought in to the orchard. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that and how you think of different ideas, how you have grown into, the zinnia fields and the gift shops and now the stands and the vendors that come on I believe on the weekends and those sort of things. And then I want to also go back to the operations and how you make that work, because that is very unique to the orchard community. So I want to go to both places there.
Sure. Well, when I joined the business, I would say the most unique thing that people don't realize is it's really hard to take somebody who's had a lot of outside experience and mold them into a family that those three people, Wayne and his parents, have worked together, 30 plus years, and bringing in a lot of change is hard. And we ended up hiring a consultant out of St. Louis, and they had a very special part in this where they helped facilitate a multi-generation family business transition. And they are specialized, and they specialize in family business, and they're actually organizational psychologists. So they facilitated a 5-year behind the scenes process to get to that point of new ideas.
That is really a valuable nugget of information, because I know that we have had several multi-generational businesses already on the podcast. I know several listen to us, and I don't think everybody thinks of bringing in a consultant that specializes in that, and that has proved to be very successful. That
was one of my sticking points of joining the business, because I knew that it was going to be a challenge, because, Wayne's parents have done this together now 58 years, and they still live there and still help at the farm, mostly retired, but still very active in the business. And I would say, that part is challenging, to let something go that's your baby and that you've worked your entire life to see that it continues. And with Wayne being the 5th generation, the stats on that is we had and have 1.5% chance of succeeding. And so I knew that that was going to be hard. And I really don't think we could have gotten to this point without making that large investment of resources, time, and money to get to be able to do the things that we want to do and move the business forward. And I would say the biggest change we've made as far as moving the business forward is diversifying more into the retail side. So even now, even to where it is today versus then, the wholesale side is still 75% of the business and revenue, and the retail has now grown to 25%, but we're looking to diversify that and grow even more in the retail side because the wholesale side has had more challenges in regulations and workforce and all of the things, food safety, all of that. And so you have to have other revenue streams.
Yeah.
So that's where
So
we're going.
walk through, if I'm a visitor and have never been there before, walk through the different highlights. What am I going to
Well,
all can we do at Rendleman
Yeah.
Orchards?
Yes. So the farm market had already been there for about 12 years before I joined, and Wayne's mother ran
2002?
that. Wayne's mother ran that and created all the processes and systems and procedures, and she had implemented some of the treats. That's her peach smoothie recipe, and she got the cider slush going and the apple cider donuts, and even the You Pick pumpkin patch was done with Betty. And then when I came on, I just started doing some things that I like to do. So I took what she'd already created and then put my spin or additions on it based off what I was seeing outside of Southern Illinois, what I was seeing in the Midwest and even on the coast, where other things were really drawing customers in. And I would say what sets our experience apart is Wayne and I weren't as much interested in the traditional agritainment of wagon rides and pumpkin slingshots. We were really interested in that authentic experience and highlighting what it is like to live on a farm. So when you come, you get that now. You get to visit the chickens. You get to walk on our land just like we do or other farmers do. And they walk past all of the old houses. Most farms don't have their
people sit in the old farmhouse yard.
Most people don't have their original farmhouse from 1873 still intact and in use, and most farms have pushed over their old structures where we still have our turn of the century old packing shed and the houses, the migrant houses or now farm worker houses. And I quickly learned when we added the first flowers of sunflowers, I quickly learned that was the fascination people had. The sunflowers and the zinnias and all that are beautiful, but the fascination was with our history and that we are still using our history as a day-to-day working farm.
That's so cool.
And how did you do your research? Did you visit other places? Did you go to conferences? Did you go, how did you do that research
You're exactly
to bring
right.
in?
Everything that
things.
you mentioned there, we did.
Yeah.
Extensively.
So it's not just
And we
Googling what.
still do.
Yeah.
Yeah, our kids complain that they go to grocery stores for vacation. So we have to go look at the peaches and apples in the stores. But I would say our whole marriage, everywhere that we've traveled, we always have to, look for the best farm and farm store and farm market and also rural experiences and just see what's happening around the country. And then I do my own research online, and also I really follow a young demographic to see what our future customers are looking for and what's, we have 2 girls, so that's very easy for me to see what they are interested in, what their friends are interested in, what they're spending their money on, where they're traveling to, why they're traveling, what pictures they're posting.
Yep.
And so, those are the things that we go after without losing sight of who we are. And that's the challenge. We have so many people, even still every weekend, you should do this and you should do that and you ought to add this and you ought to add that. But it's really hard to, even though some of that could bring in quite a bit of revenue, it's really hard to keep your blinders on and stay true to what you do and what you're good at and what is your history, and add new things and sprinkle in some of the more modern experiences, but really don't diversify so far that you can't keep the quality of what you're known for.
Wow.
Wayne, I want to ask you about
Sure.
changes in your industry.
Yes.
So, been around 150 years. You said great-great-grandfather had
Yes,
founded?
yes.
Okay. So, in your time as owner and operator, what changes in apple production, peach production, employment, all those things, what have you seen that you've had to work through those changes?
Well, the biggest thing that I would say, one of the major changes that I've noticed is that the retail. There's been a lot of wholesale farms all across the country. Whatever you do, whether it's with livestock or with fruits and vegetables, a lot of people have gone with a retail aspect. And I think that has happened a lot especially within the last 30 years because when you sell produce, it's a perishable product, and even like with livestock and so forth, that you have volatile markets. You have 1 year, the sad thing is about farming is you pretty much do well upon somebody else's disaster. And that's the sad thing about farming. You can have a really good year, but then somebody else in another area will have possibly a bad year. Okay. Therefore, prices, economics 101, supply and demand. So then, we got to see, we were noticing that we needed to have a little bit more of a market diversification. So with retail, we're able to control our price a little bit more and so forth along that line. But we weren't, we raised way too much product to sell it completely retail. And then also with retail, you need a population. Obviously we don't have the population here as other farm retails do around the Chicago area, around the St. Louis area, and so forth like that. So then that would be another thing that we would need to be a destination for people to come to. So that was one of the aspects. The other aspect that I've noticed out throughout my career is that is pretty much the employee labor situation. When I was young, we have everybody. You could really. All farms had plenty of people helping them. Summertime, you get a lot of people to help because school's out. Kids don't do that anymore. I mean,
remember a lot of kids, even my age,
yes,
detasseling.
You're exactly right.
Even
and there's we have a challenge with our workforce all the time, and that's why we actually work with the H2A program to bring people in to help us harvest. And then also we have an aging workforce because a lot of the people that work for us that have just started out, a lot of their kids are going on to, they're not wanting to get involved in agriculture, they're going to college, they're doing other things. So it's not like a continuous turnover workforce. So that has been one of our huge issues also.
Can you explain just in 1 to 2 sentences what the H2A program is?
Well, we are very fortunate because it's a program designed for agriculture, and then we actually work with the Department of Labor and the Homeland Security and the Illinois Department of Employment Security on forming a contract to actually bring people into our farm, whether they're from Mexico or whether they're from El Salvador or whether they're even from South Africa or different places. But it's all through it's an extremely big process. We hire an agent to help us. There's a lot of paperwork to us, but American agriculture would not be here without this program. I mean, it has just grown within the last 10 years tremendously because of the lack of people to help on the farms and lack to get our crops done, because a lot of these products we have from farms that are we call them specialty crops, they have to be hand harvested. There's machinery that cannot do that. They've been working on machinery for years, to be able to pick fruit off a tree, but they just haven't been able to find the efficiency yet. And I'm not saying it'll never come, but you still have to have that. And then, so we have to have that type of help with that skill set in order to make every farm sustainable, not just us, but all across the United States.
Skill set and determination.
Yes, and so that's been one of the big changes. And then the third big change that has been a positive change for us is local. When I was very young, there wasn't like this whole local movement. Now you have the local now you go to the grocery, and not even just the grocery, you go to a lot of restaurants. They have a local menu. The grocery has a local section. That has been a huge positive force amongst a lot of the farmers and growers, whether it's in the livestock industry or in the specialty crop industry, to try to promote local. And local doesn't always mean cheaper. I want people to realize that. Local is you're literally supporting somebody either within your state or close by an adjoining state or within your area, because there's a lot of different areas within our own country where it's more cost effective to raise produce. I mean, that's why we pull so much produce from California, because a lot of the products raised in a desert climate, they don't have the disease pressure like the Midwest does. And so then, but who wants to raise all of our food supply in just certain little areas? So, they're going to probably get the highest production and so forth. And there's other states in our area that we all know from gas prices that can do the cost of business cheaper. It's just cheaper. Taxes are cheaper, inputs are cheaper. The labor supply is not at a higher earning rate as certain other states. So they're able to be more competitive in their pricing. So that's what's important about supporting local, is because, it's to keep the local farmers going, because, as we all know, we're living in a state that has probably some of the highest gas prices in the nation. And that's just not the highest prices that we have. So it's important to support local. So those are some three big things.
So you have found a lot of support in Southern Illinois for your business?
Well, not just in Southern Illinois, but in the Chicago area and St. Louis. We're considered local for the Chicago areas, for the St. Louis areas, because, we are within state, we are within, so many miles away, and so forth. So it helps a lot.
I would say where we find all the support locally in Southern Illinois is the core of our business. They support our brand. They support us as a family. They support us by being part of our workforce. They support us by helping promote us. They support us because in a small Southern Illinois region, people. It's easy to make connections quickly. It's easy to network. And it's easy to form strong bonds with people. Those people know people outside of Southern Illinois. They have connections, and your network grows from the people in Southern Illinois that support you. So our wholesale is supported in that way, but our retail has been an outpouring of support from Southern Illinois people. And even though people don't really realize it, we're pulling in on our retail, we're pulling in people from 4 or 5 hours away. And I mean, I had a stay-at-home mom one day stop me and say she drove from Rolla, Missouri to get her kids' pictures in the zinnias and was driving back the same day. That's 8 hours in the car with 2 little kids plus her time there. But that's all happening because all of our Southern Illinois network and support is sharing what we do verbally. They're sharing all of our social media. They're helping us by coming out and being a vendor at the farm, helping us get the right vendors at the farm. So that's where we're seeing the support.
Well, we were talking about that earlier. Both of you, as Allison, has been part of mastermind groups, right?
Yeah.
And one of the best parts about mastermind groups is that you are at the table with people that you don't know, that are really good at their business, but it helps to get to know them and to make those connections and to network. And each one of us can say, whatever mastermind group we're a part of, is that I still have a relationship with this particular person,
Right.
you know, that I met at mastermind.
Right.
But you are a master at networking.
Well, thank
I've
you.
always thought
Yeah.
of that about
Thank
you
you.
before I even knew what you did.
Thank you.
know,
Yeah.
and you're excellent at it.
I
And so-
enjoy it. I think people
Yeah.
are good at what they enjoy.
Yeah.
And I enjoy the marketing at the farm, but I really enjoy the networking and the connections and getting
yeah.
out and even just taking the time out of your business to do mastermind. And I would say any business owner has to weigh when they leave their business to do something, whether it's going to be beneficial. And I've never been to a single thing where I've met people that it hasn't been beneficial.
Yeah.
Even if maybe the course or the meeting might not have turned out to be what I thought it was going to be for the business,
Yeah.
I've always met somebody that I can partner with or that I can help or they can help me. And, you know, even today, Wayne's getting to meet you, Allison, another small business owner, and he met you through Mastermind.
Yeah.
I met you through Mastermind, but that all happened too because of our mutual connections. And there's not many degrees of separation in Southern Illinois.
Yeah.
So
That is right.
I read in a book, a business book once, and it said, you already have what you need in the network you already have.
Right, exactly.
You just have to ask them, and they'll know somebody that can help
Well,
you.
your business helps Southern Illinois Vacation Rentals, which is
Yeah.
Allison's
Yep.
business.
Yeah.
And
Right.
yeah, absolutely. And vice versa.
Yeah.
So we strive to have a concierge service for our incoming guests, and we always recommend what there is to do in Southern Illinois, and you're part of that trail system of, you know, if you're going to go on this side during this season, then this is another stop. It is Instagrammable worthy. It
Thank
is
you.
fantastic. And you can spend an entire day there and, you know, just picking those places that are to support those small businesses. So absolutely integrated into what I do as well.
Yeah, and I think it is that mutual reciprocation. You've done a blog on our farm, and
Yeah.
what Wayne and I try to strive to do is be involved in the day-to-day, especially during season. You know, some of our social life falls by the wayside a little bit during those harvest months because both of us feel the importance. He feels the importance of having his hand in every aspect of the production. I feel the need to be involved in the day-to-day of the market. And I hear so many times, why don't you just hire somebody to do that? Why do you have to be there? Can't you get managers? You can, but they're not going to do it like we want it done to the level we want it done. And if you're going to
Absolutely.
recommend us to visitors from outside of Southern Illinois, and I feel like if somebody's driving an hour and a half, 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours to get here, we want our business to really, truly represent what Southern Illinois is about, which is hospitality and quality.
So I have one last question for you both. What advice would you give to somebody that is trying to get into maybe the wholesale market or getting into the retail market? What are those steps, which of course happened 150 years ago for you, for Rendleman Orchards? But what advice would you give that person?
Well, actually, to be honest with you, I would definitely start off small. You pretty much are going to have 2 jobs. I mean, you pretty much will probably have your job to help you out, and then start off small on the ends, because you're going to make a lot of mistakes.
Sure.
And they're going to be various mistakes can be costly, but that's the only way you're going to learn, and the only way you're going to be able to actually form with what you want to do. And then the other thing is that I would do is before I would actually either plant a tree or plant a shrub or plant anything, find out who you want to sell to.
Yeah.
Find somebody that wants your product before you even think about doing anything. Because there are so many people that I visit with, and so many articles I read, that it really doesn't go, if you plant it, they will come. A lot of times that doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, well, I have all this, but where do I sell it at? I have all these, you know.
How do I get it harvested?
How do I get it harvested? How do I do all this? Well, you know, mostly selling. I have a lot of people say, well, we plant all this, but then, you know, I actually had somebody last year call me. So we got all these vegetables here, and who do I call about buying them? I'm like, ooh. I said, you've had to have that set up like 6 months ago.
Yeah. So you've had this question before.
Yeah, plenty of times.
Every year.
So you have to find out and talk about who your customer would be before you even have a product to sell your customer. It could be the farmer's market. It could be a CSA. It could be like a small food hubs that are going up around that take you know, products from small farms. You could be like an online sales thing or something like that you can work. I know other places that they have different farms that sell within a network of online sales. There's other food distributors that you could possibly talk to and say, hey, you know, I'm interested in growing something. What do you need? Well, we are actually always coming up short on this or coming up short on that. So that would be different ideas that I would go with.
I would say for retail, Wayne and I actually went on a national farm marketers conference for all of North America the year before we ever broke ground on our farm market. And we were with 400 farm marketers from, all across North America, all the way up to Canada. And so when we were with them for 8 days on buses and in hotels and eating every meal together, we heard all of the do's and all of the don'ts. And that was extremely helpful. We gathered notebooks and notebooks of resources, where to source things, who they're selling to, what is kind of going out of trend, what's coming into trend. So that, we started with a whole lot of information before we ever even decided to break ground. And then we've kept those meetings up and we've kept our networking up, and we travel to Michigan and, we're traveling all over to be ahead of it instead of, here we are, now what do we do? Sure. And then the other thing is that you had talked with me a little bit about earlier was thinking outside of the box. And that was a funny phrase because Wayne always has said to me a lot, he's always like, oh, I don't know, that's pretty out of the box for us. And I always say, oh, that'll be great. And so he has really gotten on board with supporting from the production side, the out of the box, because one thing people really don't understand is I can come up with all the ideas. That's the fun part. Implementing them is a challenge, but also none of that is going to be great if you don't have the support of the production, because the number one thing we're still doing and selling that we've never gotten away from, our top seller is peaches, and then apples, and then our peach smoothies made with our peaches, and our apple butter made with our apples. So
apple cider made with our apples.
Yeah,
so
everything that.
Oh, and those apple donuts.
Thank you.
Don't get me started on those.
Thank you. And everything that's made with peaches or apples is still in our top 10 when I download our reports. And so having the production behind it is the secret success, is just having the continuity that people can count on every single time. And I would say too is if you really want to be successful, look at what all your competitors are doing. Maybe do a few things, but really find your own niche. Find what's going to set you apart and do that.
Yeah.
But I would like to add also, back a little bit more from the production end, is that we are very fortunate that our wonderful President Lincoln, back in the day, provided land-grant universities. And he was a huge supporter of agriculture. And he wanted agriculture to continue to flourish in our great nation through research and through information disseminated to the farmer. So every state has what they call a cooperative extension service that provides information for agricultural practices and for farming. In our state, it's the University of Illinois. That's our land grant. In Missouri, it's University of Missouri. In Kentucky, it's University of Kentucky. In Indiana, it's Purdue. Michigan, it's Michigan State. You know, all those different universities, University of Wisconsin, every state has a university that has what they call a cooperative extension service that provides research-based information upon agriculture and also has various people on staff that provides the outreach, provides constant meetings, provides on-farm meetings for people to learn and for people to network and to learn to get into agriculture. So that's an extremely valuable resource for anybody that wants to get started.
That's awesome.
All you have to do is just Google and it'll come up.
Yeah, our U of I Extension office, I think, is usually what they call it, right?
You're exactly right.
Yep.
That's one of them. And there's different throughout the U of I Extension office.
Right.
There's various areas that are taken care of by horticultural, entomology specialists, horticultural specialists, disease specialists, and for all types of crops.
And we've been doing it 150 years, and every year there's a challenge that we don't know about, and we call somebody from the U of I Extension. Because we go to their meetings, because we support everything that Wayne was just talking about by being speakers there for young farmers and things like that, they will drop everything and come right out and help us. And they've helped us when we first got into the flowers. They've helped them with pumpkins. They've helped them with a million things. So it doesn't matter if you're 150 years old or brand new starting out. That extension office is invaluable.
Yeah, there's research farms at Dixon Springs, Illinois. There's there's one in Waterloo. SIU does a lot of research on their farm in Carbondale. They have a research farm in Belleville. Of course, U of I has research farms all over the place. So there's a lot of different sources of information. You can never have too much information.
You don't have to do all the research yourself. If you're a farmer of one or a beginning farmer of a couple, you can reach out and that research is done. You just have to look for it.
Well, I think we're probably out of time for this episode, but this has been fascinating.
It has
honestly,
been.
It's so cool. Rendleman Orchards. And so if I want to find you, you go to rendlemanorchards.com.
Yeah, we have
right here on the side of the
box. We have a website, and it has all of our information about our family, our farm, what we raise, and
how many acres is the farm?
Over 800 acres.
Oh wow! And how many employees? I think we missed that too.
Well, I'd say we're in the height of season, we're up towards 80, and then in the off season, we can be somewhere around 20, 25.
Yeah, thank you so much, Wayne and Michelle Rendleman.
Thank you.
And how do you find if you are, I know you're on social media as well, so where do you look
Facebook
there?
and Instagram, we're Rendleman Orchards on both of those platforms, and our website has links to our social and to our online store. We started shipping nationwide peaches and apples. So.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Well, we want to thank everyone for watching Small Town, Big Business, and thank you for listening to our podcast. We want to thank our sponsors for making this possible again. A shout out to Fowler Heating and Cooling, Arcadia Wealth Group, the Black Diamond Harley Davidson and RV, Watermark Auto Group Foundation, Swinford Media Group, and our producers at Union Street Arts, Luke O'Neill.
And again, don't forget to subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribing is free, and you won't miss upcoming episodes that happen every 2 weeks.
And Allison, if they want to know more about your business, how would they find you?
So all of our email handle, Facebook handle, and website is all sivr.rentals.
Excellent. And if you want to know more about Ethos, the co-working spaces, small business incubator, training and development, you simply go to ethosmarion.org, or you can find us on Facebook also. It's Ethos at the Citadel on Facebook. Hey, thanks so much for joining us.